Here are 5 quick tips to help you write without editing. And the reason why writing without editing can be so important is that doing both at the same time, writing and editing, is kind of like driving a car with the gas and the brake pedal going together. It doesn't work so well. You typically want to have times where you're just allowing your creative brain to let ideas flow out, and then have a separate time, because it's a really different way of thinking, to go through and do the editing. Now, that being said, if it works for you to write while you edit, some people actually do get pretty good at that process. By all means, keep doing what works for you. At the same time, if you don't feel like it's so productive, and for many people it isn't the best approach, then here's some strategies to help you out. So the first thing when it comes to writing without editing is to manage your state going into the writing process. So this is like your emotional state, or how you're feeling. And that's not just like, are you sad or happy? It could be going in with a playful state, a creative state, a curious state, whatever it is that helps you get into the writing flow. Now, I personally like to listen to music or do something, move my body a little bit to kind of get into that flow. Walking can be especially helpful, and it's been demonstrated that walks can actually enhance creativity. I'm going to give you another specific process, though, about writing, and that is to do some quick free journaling. If it helps, you can actually take some time. You can type it out, but even better if you're writing by hand, is to take a few minutes and don't let your pen stop moving. Just let ideas come out. And even if it's just like, I have no idea what to write about, I'm just doing this exercise because some dude on the internet told me to do it. I have no idea where this is going, but I'm just going to keep writing. Whatever you need to do to just get yourself into that process where you're shutting down the inhibitory part of the brain, the critic, the editor, whatever you want to call it, that's trying to stop and analyze what you're doing. And you're just allowing yourself to get into that state of flow. And the whole idea here is it doesn't matter what you're writing. It's just a free journaling exercise. So that's the first strategy. So state management, and specifically, you can do some free journaling. The second thing that you can do is put on constraints, especially as you get more experienced. You'll probably have some sense of how much you can write in a certain period of time. So Parkinson's law says, if you give yourself an hour to get something done, you'll tend to take an hour. Task will expand to the time that you give it. If you give yourself 5 hours, you'll probably take 5 hours, right? So if you're writing a chapter of a book and you give yourself 5 hours, it might take 5 hours, but if you give yourself an hour, you might get it done in an hour, whatever it is. So by giving a constraint, then that will help you, just be like, I need to just get the ideas out. It doesn't have to be great. It just, I only have a certain amount of time to do this. And that constraint can actually enhance your creativity and flow. The third thing is to skip any unclear parts, or train yourself to go, okay, I need to do more research on that. Put in parentheses, research this later, or whatever it is. Think about anything that would take you away from the writing process. Getting on the internet to look something up, or finding out some fact, whether you're writing a fiction novel or nonfiction, whatever it is, those little details, you can always come back and fill them in later. So get in the habit of making notes to take care of it later, and keep going past any of the parts that aren't clear. Fourth tip, this is something that comes from memoir writing coach Carolyn Hamilton. And she shared that you might even put a cloth over your screen so you're not tempted to go back and reread your writing, at least not during the creative part. So this can be a really powerful thing to help you literally just block out the writing and not going back to reread more than maybe the last couple sentences if you have to see where you need to pick up from. But that way, you won't even think to go back or look back and try to reread the things that you've written before. And the fifth thing is to actually set a goal. This is a bit counterintuitive, to write crappy, right? Tim Ferriss talks about 2 crappy pages a day. The whole idea of just getting out that crappy, poor first draft, but it's just the ideas. And this really comes through training, when you realize editing is where you can make something polished and refined. This first draft especially does not need to be good, does not need to make a lot of sense. You don't need to win any awards for it. You just want to get something out on paper, kind of like getting some clay or to mold or marble that you can chip away at, whatever metaphor you want to use. You just want to get the foundation in place. And another tip here is think about how you respond to other people's work. I find that people who are very judgmental of other people or other people's works they're actually kind of feeding that inner critic, and then it comes back and attacks themselves, because they have this really strong inner critic. Now, the inner critic is great when you're actually going through the editing process. That's when you want to hear from the inner critic. But during the actual writing process, you can tell that part of your brain, hey, I appreciate you trying to make sure I do good work. I'm going to need you later. For now, you can chill out, you can relax. I'm going to let the creative part of my brain that just wants to, say, hey, what's possible? What could I do here? I'm going to let that part have some fun. Okay. So those are 5 quick tips here. Make sure you manage your state. You can do some free journaling, add in constraints, skip the unclear parts. You can put a cloth over your screen or just avoid rereading the prior parts that you've gone through, and actually strive, at least in the early drafts, for something that is kind of sucky or kind of crappy or not up to your ideal standards, because it's sort of like going and exercising. If you're going to go lift weights, you don't necessarily try to lift the heaviest weight at first. You warm up. You allow yourself to lift some lighter weights and then, build your way up. You can do the same thing with writing. That first draft is kind of like a warm up, and then you improve from there. This is Derek Depker. If you want even more tips for writing and book marketing, check out bestsellersecrets.com. It's where you can pick up a free copy of the ebook, Why Authors Fail, and get even more tips to help you succeed as a writer and author.